Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome everyone. So the reason for this video is that I was going through a lot of my old comments and I come across one which was regarding the Ashley Isles box scraper. And the person on there commented something like, "Nice box, shame there's only about 20 seconds of the scraper." That made me go off and watch the video again. First thing I'm surprised about, it was actually 7 years ago that I did that video. I went through the video and I think 20 seconds was actually very generous. So I did actually reply, apologise that the title was probably a little bit misleading, and I thought it'd been a little bit generous because from when I watched it again, the box scraper use on there was probably about 2 or 3 seconds. Ashley Isles box scraper. Again, I had to then re-look back at Ashley Isles website to see if they're still selling these. They are. I believe the price in the UK for these, if you buy off their website, is around about £30. That's with the handle. And I think if you buy it without the handle, that saves about £7. So it's always worthwhile if you're happy to make your own handles. I did one for my skew quite some time ago. I basically bought some brass tube, I think it was, and cut it down to the size I wanted to go over as a ferrule. And I actually made a nice long handle on there out of a piece of oak, and that was purely and simply because the standard handle I thought was just a little bit too short. It was probably about that sort of length, and I wanted a longer handle to actually hold more against the body. But what's so special about the Ashley Isles box scraper, and why do you need it? So the first thing is really the profile, is that it's got this curved profile underneath, and as you expect, the flat part on the top. When you get, say, like a normal square scraper, it's all out of a squarish, in this case rectangle, piece of bar, and they just grind the scraper end on the end. And this is what makes it quite unique, is that you need that circular profile in order to scrape the very edge of the box. Because this is 90 degrees down, it means that you've got more than likely to catch this bottom corner. So therefore you can't get right into the corners of the box. And that's really where this profile comes into play, is that you don't so much need it as a semicircle like you've got there. Even if you've got a bar ground on one side, just having that curve on one side. Don't need to necessarily go out and buy one of these. If you've got spare scrapers about that you want to repurpose or even just modify slightly, you could in actual fact just grind this corner off on the left hand side of your scraper. So just to totally take that round as a semicircle would then allow you full access in there. The only other issue you might have there as well is that you might have to go a lot further up rather than just the end, because depending on how far you're going down into your box as to where you're going to need that curved edge. I've used this a few times. It's not my go-to tool to use sort of like on a daily basis when I'm in the shed, but it's there. Like all tools, it has a purpose. And even in that time, I've found that there are certainly good points about it, and there are sort of like a few limitations of where you can use it. And the first thing really is its size, is because it's just made out of something like about a 9mm stock on there. And you can see that it was originally a round bar where they've just ground off the flat on the end top there. And because of the length of it, which isn't massive anyway, it's about 5 inches, 14-15 centimetres long on there, only being 9mm, and you have all this piece taken off here, you can pick up some vibration, especially if you're reaching, say, like to the limits into the bottom of a box. And you've still got this fairly short handle, so there's not, it's hard to balance the thing out. So that might be somewhere where having a much longer handle on there helps to sort of balance that out a little bit better. Because I don't use this very often, it's not sharpened very often, I can feel that I've got a little bit of a nice sharp edge on there. I think last time I did this, looking at it on here, I did put it on a grinder because I do have a slightly different angle on the top half on there compared to the bottom. Sharpening on such a small thing can be a little more problematic in that you're trying to make sure that ideally that top edge is still square 90 degrees to the bottom there. So having that end 90 degrees is actually pretty crucial, because if you're sliding down the side inside of a box, you want to know that that edge is actually going to be 90 degrees at the bottom there, so that you get a nice flat even surface on the bottom of your box. I think initially the first probably few times that I sharpened this, I was just using it on one of these sharpening stones, and with those ideally you want to put a little bit of lapping fluid on there. So that's really the main things with the box scraper. Now, do you actually need one? I mean, I did mention about obviously modifying an existing one. In the past, depending on access, I have even used the skew just to go across the bottom. But again, it's with the skew, it's access to the work. Now, most people who have the skew will keep it as the factory standard with the angled end on it. Now, the problem with that then is that if I want a straight edge, if I'm going to put that like that, as you can probably see, the tool now comes down to the side. If your box isn't very wide, you're soon going to catch the right hand edge of the box with the tool, meaning you can't get into the bottom. So in the lathe here, I've just got a small piece of waste block that what I've done, I've just hollowed out a very shallow inside. I didn't want to go deep into a box because otherwise then you can't see where the tool is. And I've done it as a typical sort of like back cut where I usually use the spindle gouge, and I've exaggerated what would be the curve on the bottom there, just so that you can get an idea of what the tool can do. As I mentioned before, a normal conventional box scraper, I could go down the edge there because you need to keep the handle raised, otherwise you're going to get a catch. And eventually this bottom corner is going to catch the side here, which means that I'm not going to be able to scrape the bottom. In this instance, if I was going to have something as shallow as this, I would probably go in with the skew. Again, I've got to make sure that this surface is flat with the work so that I go straight down like that. So it does make things a little bit more complicated, because rather than having a handle beside your body going straight down like that, say you're going down the side wall, I'm now going like that, and I can't, and I've got to, hopefully you can just see on the tool rest here, if I start where my finger is, I've got to go down like that so that the tool is going down rather than following the line of the edge. But had this been a little bit deeper, especially say towards the bottom here, I wouldn't have been able to get the skew in, because by the time I'd got towards the bottom, the skew would have been at that angle and it would have then caught this side. So I'm going to show how the box scraper works here. So I've got the lathe speed up here, around about 1400 RPM. I've got the tool rest probably just above centre, so you can see there. And the idea is to lift the handle. I mean, to be honest, I could just lower this a little bit because it's the actual tool that needs to be, so that's centre, so that's, I can just lift the handle a little bit and go across like that. Now hopefully you can see that it's creating those nice straight lines. And straight away, even on this short area, I'm picking up a bit of vibration. And if I stop the lathe a moment, I do have a nice square edge on the side there. So I'm going to just exaggerate this a little bit. I'm going to pull the tool rest out a little bit. I'm now probably from the centre of the tool rest, where obviously this is going to be anchored down, on 4.5 centimetres. So that's near enough 2 inches. So that would be more or less reasonable for what you'd expect for a fairly shallow box. And I'm now trying to brace this into my body more. The other danger as well is now I probably need the tool rest a little bit higher, ideally, to make sure, and I'm only taking it up probably 2 or 3 millimeters, just to make sure that the tool is always tilted down. And if I stop there, Yeah, I've got some minor marks on there, but at least I've got a nice square edge still. So if I take this out now to now 7 centimeters from the center there, so that's probably about just over 2.5 inches. Now if I do this, so you can see I'm now actually quite a reach of the tool, and I'm going to have to make sure, again, I want to probably raise the tool rest a little bit more, and it's just really for my own safety on there that I know I'm always going to have the tool pointed downwards rather than end up going like bringing it up too much and then getting a catch. So we've got a fair bit of extreme and straight away you can hear that vibration now. So let's get in the side. So just stop that. And I've actually got a really nice surface in there. That's even with the tool vibrating. I probably wouldn't want to go much deeper than that, but the key thing is that you're doing lighter cuts when you go down. Often you'll hear people comment, especially on social media, when you get, say, like tear out or not a very good finish, as they'll always say, just increase the speed of the lathe. But the speed of the lathe doesn't cure everything. Having a reasonable speed on the lathe and much lighter cuts is probably far more important than having a really high speed. So let's now go to the extreme of bringing this back to 10 centimeters. So I've now got this back to the extreme of 10 centimeters, which is 4 inches. So I'm keeping the lathe speed there at about 1500. I'm now actually going to probably support the tool a little, well, not actually going to support the tool underneath, because if that's inside a box, I can't do that. If it's like this, I could probably put my hand underneath to try and give the tool a bit more support. But if I'm in the middle of a box, now I'm going to try and be fairly light here. So let's just try and take the edge down. Now, considering the amount of vibration I'm getting on there, I've still actually got quite a nice finish on the bottom there. That bottom now is probably the nicest it's been throughout, where I've taken a lot more care and time to be really gentle. So in summary, the Ashley Isles box scraper, would I buy one if I didn't have one? First thing is, if money's not really tight, it's for £30 handled, or about £23 without the handle, it's certainly worthwhile investing in one. If money is really tight and you think, how can I justify spending that money, then probably not. Chances are you've already got a square nose scraper, a bit like that. I would possibly look at just grinding off the edge there to try and get it at a bit of a curve. The Ashley Isles box scraper to me is a worthwhile investment. I'd say it's certainly worthwhile having something on your rack, even if it's something you're only going to pick up once or twice a year. You've got it there for that purpose, and hopefully this now being a proper review has sort of like shown you really what its capabilities are. Thanks a lot for watching.